10 seconds to transformation.
All sections on execution standby.
Sometimes you look up and realize it's been a while since you've talked about Robotech, so this is going to be fun. Evander sent me a really nice surprise gift for Christmas. He sent me the Toynami figures of Captain Gloval and Claudia from the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross, aka Robotech. These are figures from a new range that's been out for a few years. I have refrained from buying them only because the initial wave of figures was not only rather high priced, but the articulation wasn't there. These were the pilot versions of Rick and Roy and Max and Miria and all that kind of stuff. The articulation is barely as good as the Matty Collector Voltron pilots, and that articulation wasn't great. And they come with figure stands, so they're really meant to just display on a shelf or stay in the package. And because of the price point versus the articulation and the fact that it's more than likely they're not going to make compatible vehicles for these figures, I held off. They don't fit with the original Matchbox toys. They are out of scale with the Matchbox figures by a lot. They're much taller, so they're not going to work standing next to those figures on display, and they're not going to fit in the vehicles. So the Toynami Robotech figure line is a very annoying prospect from a lot of different angles. However, what Evander sent me were some of the later wave figures that they're coming out with that were not made in the original Matchbox line. And these are the Bridge Crew. These are the characters in their formal duty uniforms.
You mean I'm not white?
And that's really exciting because one, they never made these characters or these versions of the characters for the Matchbox line. And two, they made the SDF-1 playset. And because they didn't have the Bridge Crew figures to go with the playset, you end up with a playset that's populated by a lot of combat uniformed pilots. It's a lot like the Voltron Castle of Lions, where they didn't make Koran and they didn't make the princess in her dress and they didn't make the pilots in their off-duty clothes and they didn't make soldiers to defend the castle. You just have the pilots, and then when the pilots go get in their vehicles, the whole base is empty. And that's what happened here with the Robotech SDF-1, was that there wasn't anybody to man it when all the pilots were off fighting. So even though Matchbox didn't make Lisa in her duty uniform or Claudia or Captain Gloval back in the 80s, these Toynami figures, while being out of scale, present a unique opportunity for the few of us that do have the SDF-1 playset from Matchbox, which is notoriously rare. All of those highly detailed areas in the SDF-1 playset of the command bridge and the duty stations can now be on display with characters rather than just empty. And because they come with figure stands, that makes it even easier to do that, which is great. Now, because they come in such nice packaging, I could also see people just wanting to collect these and keep them mint on card for their Robotech or Macross displays. The artwork is great, and Toynami has always been really good about packaging presentation for their Robotech items. But for me, I have no interest in collecting any of the other figures that came out in this line. A lot of them are now out of production and they're very high priced, and they didn't have great articulation anyway, and they were pilots that were just going to stand around with no vehicles. So what I'm really enjoying is the fact that I have the Bridge Crew. Now, Evander got me Claudia and Captain Gloval, and then I managed to source Elisa Hayes on discount for a good price. So I now have the 3 Bridge Crew characters. They have come out with other figures in this range that are the pilots in their more formal uniforms. That doesn't really interest me as much because they weren't crew on the bridge. If they ever come out with the Bridge Bunnies, which would be great, then I'd definitely try and find those at discount to add those to my SDF-1 display. As it stands now, I've got the principals, the 3 people that really should have always been included with the SDF-1, and I'm really happy. Thank you, Evander, so much for sending me these figures. I'm so grateful for your generosity and your friendship. I hope you enjoy the fact that I got Lisa to go with the trio. Again, the Toynami range of Robotech figures doesn't deliver when you're talking about articulation versus price point, especially with those pilots. The only reason that this even works is because a lot of these figures are in pencil skirts and can't sit down anyway, so it just makes more sense, and especially when you consider they weren't made for the Robotech Matchbox line. That makes these more enticing and worthwhile than the figures that are just doubling down on what Matchbox already made. Are they more detailed? Yes. Do they look better on display than the Matchbox ones? Yeah, that's not a high hurdle to jump. But they don't fit in the vehicles. They don't come with a lot of articulation. Their price point's very high. So for me, it's just the SDF-1 Bridge Crew figures, and then I'm calling it a day. And this may be calling it a day if they don't make the Bridge Bunnies. I hope they do, but I'm prepared that they won't. And when they do make them, if they do make them, I'm still going to probably wait for a discount because they charge too much for these. So yeah, I'm going to go put these in the SDF-1. Thanks for watching this, and I'll see you on the next video.